The Future I Saw, the terrifying prophecy of 2025, from a famous Japanese manga. Nobody tells you. The future is not something we enter. The future is something we create. Leonard Sweet. Most predictions are born from logic, data, or fear, but some come from dreams so vivid they seem to echo from a place beyond reason. In the quiet corners of Japan, a little-known manga artist once recorded a series of visions, 15 in total, each one emerging from her sleep and etched into the pages of a strange comic that few paid attention to at the time. One by one, her dreams came true. Now, only one remains, and according to her drawings, it's set to happen at exactly 5:00 a.m. on July 5th, 2025. What did she see that shook her enough to call it her final warning? And why is no one talking about it? Welcome to the journey of wisdom. In today's video, we uncover a forgotten prophecy that may hold answers or awaken deeper questions about time, fate, and the thin veil between imagination and reality. 1. Origin and form of manga. On July 1st, 1999, a quiet yet curious publication surfaced in Japan, a manga titled The Future I Saw. At first glance, it seemed unremarkable. Unlike the polished, high-energy manga that typically drew crowds, this one was different. It didn't boast colorful covers or feature a famous author, nor was it supported by flashy marketing. It was easy to overlook, and most did. Yet beneath its humble surface lay something hauntingly profound. The pages were filled not with structured stories or action-packed plots, but with raw pencil sketches, fragmented, surreal, and eerie, accompanied by sparse notes in the margins. It was less a manga in the traditional sense, and more like a visual journal of dreams, or perhaps warnings, drawn from the depths of someone's subconscious. These weren't the kind of dreams you'd forget by morning. They clung to you, unsettling and cryptic. The style was chaotic, even childlike at times, but that only added to the strange pull of the content. You didn't read this manga for entertainment. You experienced it, like deciphering a message from another world. Looking back now, many are starting to wonder if these bizarre sketches were more than just dreams. In an age where uncertainty looms, social upheaval, environmental crises, and rapid technological shifts, we're becoming more sensitive to stories that tap into our collective unease. And this manga, which at first seemed irrelevant, now feels strangely prophetic. It reminds us that not all truths come wrapped in clarity. Sometimes, wisdom speaks in whispers through unconventional forms. So perhaps there's a lesson here. Not everything valuable comes with recognition or prestige. In our own lives, too, we often ignore the subtle signs, our dreams, gut feelings, or overlooked voices, because they don't arrive in expected forms. But wisdom can appear in strange disguises, and if we slow down and truly pay attention, we may find guidance hidden in the most unassuming places. As we face the uncertainties of 2025 and beyond, it's worth asking, what quiet truths are we ignoring right now? 2. Events of 2011 and the rise of the manga. On March 11, 2011, the world watched in shock as Japan, one of the most technologically advanced countries on Earth, was struck by a catastrophic earthquake and tsunami that devastated its northeastern region. Over 15,000 people lost their lives, and thousands more went missing, leaving a nation mourning, searching for answers and trying to make sense of the unimaginable. Amid the grief and confusion, a strange ripple stirred across Japanese online communities. Someone remembered a little-known manga, a comic book tucked away in time, and what they found inside sent chills down the spine of everyone who saw it. This was not just a coincidence, it felt like a warning from the past, echoing into the present. The manga, drawn 12 years earlier by an artist who claimed to receive vivid, almost dreamlike visions, eerily depicted a scene that mirrored the very disaster Japan had just endured. Pages showed flooded streets, towering tsunami waves swallowing coastal cities, and, oddly enough, the number 311, boldly marked on the cover, matching the exact date of the disaster, March 11th. It seemed too precise, too detailed to dismiss as mere chance. What was once dismissed as fiction now felt like a message, almost prophetic, waiting to be recognized. People began digging into this forgotten work page by page, treating it like a coded manuscript from the future. The deeper they looked, the more astonishing the discovery became. Inside the book were 15 dreams, 15 visions the artist claimed to have seen and then illustrated. But what shook readers to their core was this: 12 and a half of these dreams had already come true. Real-life events that mirrored the strange, symbolic images from the manga had already unfolded. This wasn't just about one natural disaster. This felt bigger. Could the artist have tapped into something beyond the ordinary? A deep intuition, or even a collective consciousness that spoke through dreams? Or was it all just coincidence wrapped in the lens of hindsight? These questions sparked widespread fascination, not just in Japan but globally, as people wondered if there was still more to be uncovered, particularly from the final unfulfilled visions. Now, you might be asking yourself, how much do we ignore the subtle messages around us? How often do we brush off dreams, intuitions, or warnings just because they don't come wrapped in scientific explanations? When something as simple as a drawing can hold such eerie power, it invites us to pause and reflect. Are we truly paying attention to the signs life offers us? Could our dreams, our stories, or even the art we create carry deeper meanings than we realize? This strange case of a forgotten manga becoming a mirror of national tragedy opens a space for a much larger conversation, not just about prophecy, but about the mysteries of the human mind, the patterns of history, and the hidden threads that may connect us all. And so, as we explore this manga's terrifying prophecy of 2025, we're not just chasing predictions, we're also being called to listen more deeply, to question more wisely, and to live more consciously. Whether or not you believe in prophecy, the lesson here is clear. Stay awake, stay aware, and don't be too quick to dismiss the whispers of your own inner voice. Because sometimes the future doesn't shout, it draws in pencil and waits for someone to see. What unseen messages might be waiting for you to notice today? 3. Mysterious author Rio Tatsuki. Let me tell you a story that feels like it was whispered through time, wrapped in mystery, and now resurfacing when the world seems to need it most. It's about a woman who many believed might not even exist. Rio Tatsuki, the elusive creator behind a manga that eerily predicted future disasters, including the 2011 tsunami in Japan. In a time when almost everything about our lives can be tracked, tagged, or searched, How is it possible that someone with such prophetic insight could remain in complete anonymity for over 2 decades? That question alone captured the imagination of thousands. And yet, Rio Tatsuki, a name as delicate and fleeting as mist, left no footprints, no confirmed identity, no verifiable background, no face to attach to her chilling visions. As the world tried to uncover who she really was, imposters began to emerge online, claiming to be her, offering fresh prophecies and stirring anxiety. But something about the original work had a different energy. It wasn't about fear-mongering. It felt personal. Almost like a gentle warning from someone who didn't want to be seen, only heard. Then something extraordinary happened. In October 2023, Rio Tatsuki returned, not as a viral sensation, not as a myth, but as a living, breathing person with a story to tell. She republished The Future I Saw, this time not just as a collection of surreal dreams, but as a detailed memoir. Through her writing, she invited us into her world. Born on December 2nd, 1954, in Kanagawa Prefecture, now living in Yokohama, Tatsuki described a quiet post-war childhood filled with singing, painting, and a deep emotional sensitivity. But it was at age 9 that everything changed. She began to have dreams. Dreams that didn't just linger in her imagination, but eventually began to mirror real-world events, sometimes with frightening accuracy. Can you imagine what it must have felt like to carry such a gift, or perhaps a burden, as a child? To see what others could not, and to feel both awe and isolation from it. This is where her story takes on a spiritual weight, because her dreams weren't filled with monsters or fantasy. They were glimpses into our shared future. And when we reflect on that, it brings up a larger question. How connected are we really? What if someone's dream could be another's warning? As the Buddha once said, all that we are is the result of what we have thought. The mind is everything. What we think, we become. Was Tatsuki simply tuned into a deeper layer of reality, where collective consciousness and subtle energies reveal what's to come? Or did her quiet life, her sensitivity, and her imagination open a door the rest of us ignore in the noise of modern life? To be honest with you, I believe her story resonates not just because of the predictions, but because it speaks to something we've forgotten. Our inner stillness, our ability to listen deeply to what the world or the universe is trying to tell us. There's a Zen teaching that says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Maybe Rio Tatsuki isn't just a person. Maybe she's a mirror reflecting our readiness to face the truth, not just about disasters, but about our way of living, our choices, and the energies we create as a society. So now I ask you, what do you think her dreams really mean? Are they messages from another dimension, a subconscious warning from the collective human spirit, or simply coincidence wrapped in mystery? And more importantly, what are your dreams trying to tell you? Could it be that within each of us lies a quiet wisdom waiting to be heard, if only we'd sit still long enough to listen? Let's not treat this story as just eerie entertainment or internet folklore. Let's treat it as a nudge, a moment to pause and ask, what future are we walking toward? And are we brave enough to change course if that future no longer serves us or the generations to come? If you've watched this far, you're already prepared to face what lies ahead in 2025. Comment below with "I'm ready" to show you're committed to uncovering the truth behind this chilling prophecy. But don't go anywhere yet. There's still more crucial information coming up that nobody else is talking about. Stay until the end, because the details you're about to hear could change how you see the future. 4. Notable dreams that have come true. In the quiet stillness of sleep, where dreams often drift away unnoticed, a woman named Tatsuki found herself visited time and again by an elderly man with silver-white hair, gentle eyes, and a voice that felt like a warm breeze on a winter's night. He appeared in her dreams not as a figment of imagination, but as a guide, offering cryptic visions of the future as they walked together under the moonlight. These encounters felt peaceful at first, but as the years passed, what began as mystifying whispers transformed into undeniable truths. One night in November 1976, Tatsuki dreamed of a vibrant performer collapsing beneath dazzling stage lights, the applause turning to silence. It was Freddie Mercury, the unforgettable voice of Queen. At the time, he was a symbol of life and vitality, and the thought of his death seemed absurd. Yet Tatsuki captured the dream in her journal, complete with sketches and notes. 15 years later, the news of his passing on November 24, 1991, stunned the world and left Tatsuki reeling. Not only had she seen it coming, but her dream had also included a vision of a biographical film crew mourning him, which eerily mirrored the real-life documentaries that followed. This was not a vague prediction. It was a precise, almost surgical glimpse into a moment that hadn't yet arrived. That realization brought not awe, but fear. For the first time, she began to wonder whether her dreams were not just symbolic, but warnings. From that moment, her dreams grew sharper, more urgent, and frighteningly accurate. What began as rare symbolic images became recurring flashes of real events before they unfolded. She began to notice a pattern. Some dreams came true in 5 years, some in 10, and others exactly 15 years later. Tatsuki did not shrug them off as chance. She documented everything: colors, sounds, emotions, locations, and names. One particularly haunting vision came to her on August 31, 1992. In it, she walked a long corridor lit by golden sunlight streaming through high windows, where at the end hung a painting of a blonde woman holding a child, beneath which was the name Dana. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed, metal screamed, and sorrowful cries filled the air. 5 years later to the day, on August 31, 1997, Princess Diana died tragically in a car accident in Paris. Once again, her dream had become reality. This pattern of prophecy and fulfillment was too exact, too timely, and too intense to ignore. It was not guesswork. It was as though the future had entrusted her with secrets meant for preparation, not fear. As we move further into the timeline of her visions, a deeper urgency takes hold. In 1995, her dreams began shifting away from personal tragedies to large-scale global catastrophes. Natural disasters in particular became the focus. Earthquakes, tsunamis, and sudden geological shifts that hinted at the Earth's restlessness. On the night of January 2, 1995, she was again visited by the same elderly guide who led her to a land cracked open by violent tremors, the air filled with dust and despair. She awoke with her heart racing and wrote in her journal a chilling note: "Something will rupture in 15 days. On January 17, 1995, the great Hanshin earthquake struck Kobe, Japan, killing nearly 6,500 people and leaving the city in ruins. What had once felt like mysterious dreams had now evolved into crystal-clear forecasts of devastation. In that moment, all lingering doubt in Tatsuki vanished. She understood that her dreams were not just private visions. They were messages from something far greater, and they needed to be shared. For many of us today, living in a world where uncertainty seems to grow by the hour, stories like Tatsuki's may sound mysterious, even unsettling. Yet beyond the predictions and the eeriness of fulfilled dreams lies a deeper question. How do we listen to what the world is trying to tell us? Whether or not one believes in prophecy, the lesson is clear. Our lives are interconnected with forces we often fail to notice. The emotions in Tatsuki's dreams, the sorrow, the urgency, the compassion, speak to a larger truth that applies to us all. We must pay attention to the subtle signs in our world, not just in dreams, but in how nature shifts, how people change, and how society evolves. Tatsuki didn't just receive visions, she acted on them. She documented, reflected, and ultimately shared them through her manga, The Future I Saw. Turning private fear into public awareness, her courage reminds us that when we are given insight, whether through intuition, experience, or inner wisdom, we carry a responsibility to act mindfully and help others prepare, not panic. 5. Reprinted in 2023 and New Warning. For over 2 decades, there was silence. Then, on a quiet night in July 2021, something changed. Tatsuki was shaken awake by a vivid and terrifying dream. One that reignited her purpose and pushed her back into the spotlight. She found herself alone in a vast field filled with water, beneath a cold grey sky without sunlight. The sea to the south of Japan began to stir with unnatural force, and from its depths 2 massive dragons rose, writhing as if they were tearing the earth itself apart. An explosion shattered the silence. She felt the world collapsing around her. That moment was more than just a nightmare. It was a continuation of the vision she had seen in 1999, only this time it was sharper, louder, and impossible to ignore. Could it be that the future she saw decades ago was finally drawing near? In response to that chilling dream, Tatsuki came forward again in 2023, reissuing her book in a new and expanded edition. This time, it came with a dire warning. Within this new dream, she stood impossibly high above the earth, looking down on the southern sea of Japan, which stretched beneath her like a living, breathing map. At first the waters were calm, almost unnaturally so. Then, without warning, immense bubbles began rising from the ocean floor, like boiling cauldrons deep beneath the surface. Scientists call this a potential sign of an underwater volcanic eruption, something Japan is no stranger to. But what made her vision unforgettable was what came next. The 2 dragons emerged again. They coiled silently around the center of these bubbles, almost as if guarding something hidden in the depths. Then a towering column of water exploded into the sky, followed by a monstrous tsunami. It was far more destructive than the devastating waves of 2011. Tatsuki stood frozen, unable to move, as waves swallowed buildings, cars, entire cities, and countless lives. But after this wave of destruction came something unexpected. A new landmass began to rise from the ocean, raw and untouched, as if an ancient land had awoken from deep slumber. Tatsuki felt something shift inside her. This was no ordinary dream of destruction. It was a message. From chaos would come a rebirth. In this vision, she saw a single land uniting Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the Philippines. The prophecy did not end in death. It opened the door to a new beginning. Yet, what made the vision all the more haunting was that she saw the exact moment it would occur. 5:00 a.m., July 5th, 2025. Understandably, some have mocked her, labeling her dreams as delusion or anxiety. But those who've followed her predictions since the 1970s know that many of her earlier visions strangely aligned with real-world events. Could this one be another accurate glimpse into the future? The strange part is, it's not entirely impossible. Japan lies in one of the most geologically unstable regions on Earth, the Pacific Ring of Fire. This area is notorious for its tectonic activity, earthquakes, volcanoes, and even the formation of new islands. In 2013, an underwater eruption near Nishino-Oshimai Island formed a new island that eventually merged with the original, doubling its size. Then in 2021, a sudden volcanic event in the Kuril Islands gave birth to yet another island. These aren't isolated incidents. They're signs of the living, shifting Earth beneath us. And here's where things get truly intriguing. In the artwork that accompanied her dream, the two dragons appeared beneath the sea exactly where the Philippine Sea Plate and the Pacific Plate intersect, one of the most volatile spots on Earth. Scientists know that if the right conditions are met, an eruption here could actually push the seafloor upward, possibly creating entirely new land. So when Tatsuki speaks of a rebirth, of a new land connecting nations, it isn't pure fantasy. It's a poetic yet scientifically plausible interpretation of what our future could hold. And that leads us to a deeper question. If even part of this comes true, are we prepared not just for disaster, but for the transformation that follows? Here's what we must remember. Tatsuki's vision isn't just about catastrophe. It's a call to wake up, to stop treating life as guaranteed, to think about how we're living, how we treat one another, and what kind of world we want to build after the wave has passed. The message here isn't fear, it's responsibility. What if this isn't about predicting doom, but about urging us to live with greater awareness, unity, and compassion? What would change in your life if you knew the world could be different tomorrow? So, what lesson can we draw from this mysterious prophecy? First, the Earth is alive and we are deeply connected to it, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Second, times of destruction often precede times of rebirth. Whether Tatsuki's vision unfolds as foretold or not, it reminds us that change is always on the horizon. And finally, perhaps the most important lesson, don't wait for disaster to live mindfully. Prepare your heart as much as your home. Care for others, deepen your compassion, because no matter what tomorrow brings, it's how we respond today that shapes the future. What would you do differently if you knew you were living on the edge of great change? 6. Unpublished dream. City submerged in water. One dream that leaves Tatsuki breathless upon waking, not from fear, but from a profound sense of loss, occurred in the late 1990s. Not because it was frightening in the usual sense, but because it held a sorrow so vast it left her breathless. She wrote it down in her journal but kept it hidden from the world for many years, not out of fear of being judged or misunderstood, but because she didn't want others to feel powerless in the face of what she saw, and that in itself tells us something about the nature of the dream. It wasn't just a private nightmare. It was a message that felt bigger than her. In her dream, the world groaned from deep within the earth. A thunderous rumble rose, a sound so primal and ancient that it seemed to tear through the very bones of the planet. Tatsuki, still dreaming but somehow aware, looked at a clock that read exactly 5 o'clock. But whether it was dawn or dusk didn't matter. The light outside was strange, suspended in an unnatural stillness. She stepped outside and was met with destruction that words can hardly capture. Roads were broken, buildings partially swallowed by the earth, metal twisted like paper, and the air thick with silence. Then she saw it. The bridge over the river, a familiar landmark, now cut off mid-arch, its other half missing like a sentence unfinished. No cars moved, no voices spoke. The city, once alive, had gone silent. What shook her most was what came next. Looking down, she realized she was standing on nothing but water. All around her, the city had vanished beneath a rising flood. There was no chaos, no rushing panic, just an eerie stillness. A world stopped. "This is not fear," she later wrote. "This is loss." And here's the chilling part. While some said this dream echoed the disaster of 2011, the devastating earthquake and tsunami that struck Japan, Tatsuki said it felt much worse. There were details she couldn't shake. She was wearing short sleeves, a strange thing to dream if you're imagining a tsunami like the one in 2011, which happened in winter. But this was in the warmth of summer. The destruction came not in cold waves, but under a summer sun. And she later noted, the dream pointed to the summer of 2025. Now, I don't share this to spread fear. Buddhism teaches us that all things arise and pass away, but those who awaken are never shaken. This story, while intense, can be a mirror for us. What do we do when faced with the unknown? Do we freeze, or do we awaken? Tatsuki didn't tell this story to terrify the world, but perhaps to help us prepare, not just with supplies or plans, but in spirit. Life is fragile, and nature is far more powerful than our cities and machines. Yet in this fragility lies the seed of compassion, the opportunity to live with greater awareness and care. So I ask you, how do you respond to a vision like this? Does it stir fear, or does it awaken a sense of urgency to live more deeply, more wisely, more kindly? When the waters rise, whether literally or metaphorically, what kind of person do you want to be? In Zen we say, when the wind blows, the grass bends. But what if you could be the tree whose roots go deep, whose branches shelter others, no matter the storm? Let's not wait for disaster to open our eyes. Let this dream be not a prophecy of doom, but a call to presence, to unity, to right action, because even in the face of possible destruction, we still have the power to shape how we live now. And maybe, just maybe, that's the part of the dream we were always meant to hear. What does this story awaken in you? Thank you deeply for joining us today on the journey of wisdom. As we've explored this mysterious and profound prophecy, remember that whether these visions come true or remain symbolic warnings, their core message urges us all to live consciously, to listen deeply, and to foster compassion in every action we take. The future isn't simply something that happens to us. It's something we actively create through our awareness and choices each day. If this video resonated with you, please support us by giving it a like, sharing it with friends, family, or anyone who might find it meaningful, and subscribing to our channel for more enlightening content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you'll never miss out on our future explorations into the mysteries and wisdom of life. Together, let's continue to journey deeper, cultivating insight and awareness, shaping a world rooted in understanding, kindness, and hope. Because ultimately, the future begins with how we choose to live today.